genius Jonna had added. Jonna smiled as Cas stepped off the lift. "Morning, Cas." Her gaze flicked quickly over Cas, probably taking in the way she was practically dragging her body behind her as she walked. "Looks like you had fun last night." Cas laughed, though it sounded more like someone had thrown gravel into a blender. "You know how much I love first date speed date night." "I need to go to one of those at some point," Jonna said. The phone started ringing, and she turned toward it slowly. "My single life is like fucking tragic." Jonna paused. "Thank you for calling Friday. How may I direct your call?" "That makes two of us," Cas whispered as she unearthed her ID card and tapped it onto the reader on Jonna's desk to sign in for the day. Jonna turned her head away from the receiver to laugh. "Of course. Hold, please." She clicked a few buttons on the phone before dropping the receiver back onto the base. "Don't talk to me about tragic," Jonna said, rolling her eyes. "You've got a new person on your arm every week." Cas attempted a smile, but the tightening around her eyes made her feel like her gesture probably looked less amused and more unsafe to be around. "Well, someone's got to make sure the scrubs we recruit are worth our time." Jonna barked a laugh and lifted her mug off her desk with a flourish. "You're too much." "That's what they tell me." "Hey, do you know if Robert is in his office?" "I haven't seen him this morning, but let me check the system," Jonna said. "Sometimes he likes to sneak in." She took a sip of her tea and started rapidly tapping her mouse with her free hand, her eyes scanning the screen for a few seconds before she clicked her tongue. "Yep, he's here. Must have shown up while I was putting the kettle on." "Perfect. The sooner she got this meeting over with, the better." "Thanks, Jonna." "Of course." Jonna flashed a wink. "I hope the meeting goes well." What do you know?" "Nothing you won't know in about 10 minutes. Now go, you're going to be late." There was no sense pressing Jonna for more. Cas had worked with her long enough to know that Jonna said exactly as much or as little as she was ever going to. Cas half waved and walked off into the office, slinging her ID badge around her neck as she went. The office was quiet for 8 in the morning. Most of the events team tended to arrive around 11 or even later if they were out on location organising some details for whatever they had going on that evening. But the day staff were numerous, about a half-dozen other departments in all. It was still a little before 8, so Cas supposed most people would be rolling in over the next hour or so. But it was almost apocalyptic how silent the office was at the moment. The few people she did see were wearing large over-ear headphones and typing quietly on their keyboards. And honestly, Cas was jealous of them, in spite of the early hour. She'd do anything to hide in her music and clack away on her keyboard every day and get paid for it. Her eardrums would certainly thank her if she started spending less time a meter away from pub speakers. And it would be nice for once to switch off, to work without having to plaster some big smile on her face and act like the sun shone out her arse. Where most everyone at Friday worked at long, open tables, the executive offices were private, tucked away in the corner and lined with gorgeous windows. A few years back, they'd built a partial brick wall to separate the executive suites from the main floor, and it deadened whatever sound there was as Cas walked into the assistant bay outside the offices. Robert's assistant Colby was sitting, as he always was, at his desk, and he smiled perfunctorily as he finished typing. "Go on through. I've let Robert know you're here." "Thanks." Cas took another long, bracing sip of her iced coffee and opened Robert's door, and promptly squinted into the too bright sunlight shining through his windows. It felt like someone was pointing a laser directly into her retinas. "Ah, Cas." Robert was smiling, but there was no trace of warmth in his voice. "Good morning. I hope the hour isn't too early for you." "No, not at all." They both knew Cas was lying through her teeth, but neither of them challenged it. "Well, good," Robert said, his eyes still on his computer screen as Cas sat down on the hard purple chair opposite his desk. "Because there are some big things I'd like to talk with you about." That couldn't be good. "Oh?" Robert turned in his chair, so he was finally facing her. "I have a proposition for you." Robert tented his long fingers in front of his face, his glasses halfway down his nose so he could stare at Cas over the rims, the way he always did when he was trying to be particularly scary at their all-team marketing meetings. It was an expression that was, unfortunately, highly effective. Robert's blue eyes were famously like ice, sharp and unfeeling and deadly, like those meter-long icicles that fell off roofs in Norway and impaled people. "Okay."